All right, welcome back to another episode. I'm here with a very special guest, Miss Andrea. Did I say that right?
Yes, you
From
did.
Brazil, but doesn't live in Brazil. Andrea, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, I'm so excited and curious and already feeling super comfortable about this.
Okay, I like that. That's important, and we met because we have a similar calling, which is to change the world through speaking.
Yeah,
And you done a book yet?
I
Have you written a
have
book
an
yet?
ebook in the process of,
You're in the middle of it?
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. I
Mhm.
had a feeling. So she's an up and coming author. I've written a couple of books, and we hit it off. We met in a community of other like minded people that are fulfilling their calling right now, specifically around speaking. And Andrea, tell us real quick, because I forget the bio, because I'm bad about that. Although I don't know, did you send me your bio?
I did not. You
Yeah.
said
See,
I could do it
well, that's
after.
why I forgot it. Yeah, that's why I forgot it. Anyway, okay, so
Typical
tell
me,
me.
I'll do only when I have to.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, your most important bio is going to be what you did at 5 years old, right?
Right.
When you were a weird kid. But before we get into the fun part, tell me the part about your journey as an adult that got you to this point where you're like, you know what? I want to go deeper. I want to help other people. I want to do more, have more of an impact, and I want to do it at scale. So now I'm going to be doing keynote speaking and become a thought leader. What was the journey from when became an adult to now, real quick? What have you been up to?
What is real quick? To give me like how much time do I
Real
have?
quick is like two
Seconds to
minutes.
what
Give me
else?
2 minutes. Yeah, yeah. I don't need to know
2 minutes?
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't need to know your GPA in college.
got it.
Okay.
So born in Brazil, I moved to the US when I was already 20 something, about 20
Mm-hmm.
years ago. And I'm an engineer. I was an engineer, but that's what I did for my undergrad. And then when I came to the US, I got my first job as a technical person, like a technical engineer. And I very quickly realized that what I really wanted to do within technology was to teach people. So
Mm.
I started as a technical support engineer, answering calls from very angry clients, learned a lot. But then very quickly, I wanted to move that knowledge to, just teaching a group of people. I loved the feeling of people coming into the classroom and leaving different because of some type of support that I provided. And back in the day, that was knowledge. So I follow a technical career, and I saw a lot of gaps in the industry, especially in terms of communication. Right, the
Mm.
technical people were usually spend a lot of time training for their cognitive skills and not enough time training for communicating with others. And once they get a managerial position, they struggle
Yes.
because there's nothing binary about people, right? People are all colors of grays, and they treat people as 0 or 1. Like we used to do when we were doing codes. And I was
Yes.
like, okay, that's how I can help, because somehow I've always had that in me. I believe this is my natural talent to communicate, and I can help these people that think they cannot manage, just helping them on how to communicate better, how to delegate, how to provide good feedback. And I decided to become a leadership coach, focus on the IT industry. And that's where I am today. And my speaking gig and all my services and my offers are about that.
I love it. Yeah, and what a important thing. In fact, I was talking just yesterday on a podcast with another thought leader, Paul Epstein, who's written a couple of books, very very successful. And one of the things we were talking about was this issue where people get promoted to manager because they're really high performers, but once they get there, there's not enough support on what the heck they're supposed to do. How am
Exactly.
I supposed to lead? Because just because I'm really good at whatever it is I was doing, the next level up for pay and to keep people at your company is, well, now you got to be a manager. It's the only
Exactly.
way I can pay you more.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's like, okay, well, now what? And then when they struggle, people are like, well, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
then they get burnt out on a job that they used to be super loyal to, did forever, and added so much value to the company. But they're
And
a manager.
loved. Talk
Yeah. Now all of a
about
sudden,
loving the job that you do, and then you're put
yes.
into a position where you feel miserable because you don't know how you're going to do that.
Yes. And that's tough when you're already part of an existing culture to step into that. So I love that that is your talk. And you said some things to me in our last conversation that I wanted to bring up because a couple of things kind of jumped out at me when I
Mm-hmm.
was asking you, what is it? Because I asked you, why do you talk? And you're like, do you mean what is my topic? And I was like, no, no. Why do you talk? Not what do you talk about? And I what I gathered was that why you talk is it because you believe that leaders need to have more authentic connections with people as opposed to assumptions. Because with authentic connections with themselves as a leader and with the people that they serve, that's when the essence of each person is celebrated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Does that
And
sound
also
right?
focus more on the impact and less on the judgment, right? I was
Yes,
coaching this guy
exactly.
today. He's a high performing IT manager. And he was telling me, what do I do when I see that my teammate made such a huge mistake? And my emotion starts boiling, and I was like, okay, what do you do? And he says, oh, I asked him, how could you make such a basic mistake?
Mm,
I talked to him. I was like, okay, what was your intention with that? Oh, I don't want him to repeat the same mistake. I was like, okay, now if you cross the bridge and try to feel what he felt when he heard you say that, what do
yeah.
you think he felt? Oh my gosh, like ashamed, like he
Hmm.
wasn't enough. I was like, okay, so you think your intention is matching the impact you had with that conversation?
Oh, wow. I love that how you use the
And
word impact. Yeah.
yeah, and he realized that it was such a disconnect of what he wanted the output to be and the way he behaved, how he made that person feel.
Wow.
Once that person is felt threatened or ashamed or less, they won't be in a position to even have good decision making because they are already in fight or flight mode, right? They're
Oh my
feeling
gosh.
threatened. So he's like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it. I was like, okay, so let's role play again. What
Yeah,
could you do instead in that communication that will
exactly.
make your intention match your impact? And he realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to stop judging that person at that moment and think about the situation and how we can resolve the conflict.
I love this,
Yeah.
Andrea. I mean, because the way you use the word impact is basically like how some people would say like the end result, right? And
Hmm.
so, and I like the word impact so much better than end result, but it's all about the actions because no matter what I believe, I've said this a lot to different people. No matter what I believe or what I think, or what I want to do, all that really defines me is what I actually do. Right. So the
Exactly.
road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? You've heard this.
Hmm.
It's an old one, right? So the reason why the road to hell is paved with good intentions, is because good intentions aren't going to get us there. The intentions, I think, for most leaders is that they would like the impact to be better performance,
Exactly.
right? Or better results or more ROI, whatever it is that the company needs today for this quarter to finish off strong, right? So, but that's obvious. That's the obvious stuff. The truth is that what gets each person there is different,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So as one leader, I might have got there because I had someone stepping on my neck and I was
Hmm.
so afraid of them that I just made it happen. And, that's one way to do it. I don't respond to that. I get burnt out very quickly with that. I think a lot of other people do if they're honest about it. Nobody really wants to be talked to.
And you may
So,
get there, but you're going to get there always afraid and always with fear. And we
yes.
know that nobody produces to their peak performance out of fear. You may produce something because you're running from a wolf. But if you're always afraid of the wolf, how much can you do with your life because you spend your time afraid of the wolf, right?
Wow. And I'm sure a lot of the work you do is around fear then.
Yeah, it is. And it's about that what you're saying. It's transferring that intention and putting that into an action that actually delivers that intention through.
Yes. Yes. And one of the things that I talk a lot about, and again, going back to my conversation with Paul Epstein, we were talking about this equation. And he came up with an equation that values, like your personal values, times the actions that correlate with that value creates X, right? So for him, it's confidence. I think for you, it's connection. But the fact is that we have to know, okay, what are the values that I have? What are the values that I'm trying to instill here? And what are actions that match that? And then how can I repeat that? Because as I repeat that, I'm going to get better and better
Yeah.
at having the impact I want, right?
And the word that came to my mind as you're talking about values and actions is curiosity, is approaching situations with
There it is.
curiosity. Because if I am curious, that means that I'm not allowing the prejudgment to take over. You know what we do? Perception is reality. If I
That's right.
come to a conversation loaded with judgment, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
already going to behave based on the image I already have of that person. That's what I tell the leaders. If you already made your mind that person is lazy, that's your demeanor with that person is going to be treating somebody like they're lazy. Now, if instead you decide to give them the benefit of the doubt, and that's when I talk about essence, right? And just
Mm-hmm.
be curious and say, what have you done? Right? What have you done? What are your next steps? So you understand what the person is, how much they know about something, and then you fill in the gaps as the manager instead of making all of those assumptions and minimizing the person.
You just nailed something super important to me. So as you know, like I'm very passionate about this concept of love your weird. And
Hmm.
what most people don't know is that weird, when it was originally coined, it was back in England, and the word didn't mean what it means now. It meant fate, destiny, and supernatural qualities. Okay, which I would argue is another way of talking about your essence, your original essence.
Absolutely.
And so the thing about curiosity is that most of the organizations have crushed an environment where curiosity is celebrated. It
Hmm.
has to be more than just welcomed. It's got to be celebrated. Most companies are facing a disruption right now that is absolutely massive. And many of them don't even realize how bad it already is or what it's about to be. So
Hmm.
many companies are not in touch with the reality. They think, "Oh, that was COVID, cool, we're done with that." But this just AI, let alone climate change, and let alone virtual working, the disconnection that comes from virtual work now that is convenient, but what's the price?
Yeah.
What's the consequence of that? And so when you think about that, in order to what I call soar seismic shifts, soar these massive changes that are upon us,
Hmm.
if we're not willing to innovate and innovate continuously, we will on every level will die.
Absolutely.
Well, innovation doesn't just happen because we decided, oh, let's innovate, everybody,
Yeah.
or we decide we're going to
Well,
innovate for a day.
I need to adapt.
Right. So, but you have to create a space. So it's like, where does innovation come from? So the journey that I've been on, because I've been on this journey for 9 years, put 2 books out about purpose and the why, breaking why, art of why, all this stuff. And I've realized, there's something even deeper than that I think can create anyone's why. And what it really boils down to is being willing to have radical authenticity matched with continuous innovation. So where those two intersect, authenticity and innovation, that's where I currently live. Okay.
Hmm.
And so how do we get there? And what's interesting is that most of us, when we were kids, were a weird kid. There was something
Curious
weird.
and
Yeah.
very curious.
But very curious because we weren't told not to yet. All of our thinking was this divergent style thinking as opposed to convergent, which is what we're taught, what society tells us, bullies tell us, school tells us, even some of our family tells us that, like, look, that's ridiculous. So okay, let's do a little exercise. All right, Andrea, when you were 5,
Hmm.
okay, what were you up to? And I'm going to tell you why I'm asking you this in a minute, but just what were you into at 5 years old?
Okay, so I would love to. I love to like jump from couch to couch, and I was pretending that I was traveling through planets, right?
Oh, yes, I
Really
love it.
using my imagination and thinking I was really out there in space. Um, I also loved, my dad used to, we had a little backyard with tiles, and then my dad would do like water and soap, and we would use the walls just to push ourselves and pretend we were flying. And once we were there, we just fly in the sky and in my. But one thing that I realize now talking to you is that I was always with people. For me, it was very important
Mhm.
to play with other people, to
Mm.
to be together, to do it, yeah, to do it as a team. And I grew up playing sports, so since I was little, like if anything had a resemblance of a ball, I would just use it to throw back and forth and play, but always with somebody else. I don't remember
Yes.
playing alone.
Okay, first of all, I love this. So when I was a kid, same age, I don't want to ask you your age because I think that's still like kind of an inappropriate thing. Or is
I'm 46. I just turned
okay,
46 on Saturday.
okay, wow, very bold. Thank you. I'm 42, so we're both in our 40s. So we
Mhm.
have to think a little harder to get back to 5 years old. But so when I was 5, I was an astronaut, inventor, cowboy TV preacher. Okay, that's what I was. It sounds like we both were astronauts, which I love. It sounds
Yeah.
like you might have been on some of these planets a couple years before me, but same difference. But so here, well, how see if this fits. Astronaut, pioneer, community leader.
Yes.
Do you see?
Yes.
Now, can you see how that love for imagination has helped you as an adult in your innovation? Your love for wanting to fly and be free has made you a pioneer in certain aspects, and
Mhm.
100% your desire to be a community leader is coming out now.
Yeah.
Do you see how that's starting to come out, right?
Absolutely.
And that's your authentic self.
Mhm.
Most people who are trying to figure out who am I actually are looking in the wrong place. If I go back and look at who was I before I started having limiting beliefs, to your word, judgment,
Mhm.
okay, that made me think I shouldn't be imaginative. Because let me tell you, a lot of people, not the least of which is Albert Einstein, said that knowledge is not as powerful as imagination. Everybody's like, knowledge is power, knowledge is power. And I agree with that. But here's the
Interesting.
deal: imagination trumps knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's the ingredient that we all need to survive the seismic shifts that are upon us.
Yeah.
But we have to create a space first and foremost where we're free to be weird, to be the kid we were before we had to be normal.
Mhm.
And see, you and I are in a small percentage because we are willing to be divergent in our 40s.
Yes.
But we are right now, as far as actions go, the minority. I think inside we're the majority.
Uh-huh.
Inside people, the majority, how they're taking it from good intentions into reality or what my impact on this world will be, and
Mhm.
willing to step into fear. How am I going to get paid? Does this make sense? This is ridiculous. Why don't you have benefits? Like all the stuff that, we all go through. Here's the thing. They did a study, right? And I talk about this in my talk, and it's about the imagination piece. So the same thing about this 5-year-old piece that's tied to your authenticity and who Andrea really is and who Frankie really is. Going deeper than authenticity, let's look at the imagination. So they did a study, NASA did, you and I's favorite company, who we hopefully will get to be a part of.
Yeah.
I'm actually on the waiting list for Virgin Galactic. That's how I'm trying to be an
Really?
astronaut. Yes, yes.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, you need to get on
Nice.
that. Yeah, so I'll let you know how it goes. But we're going to space. You and I will not die without being in space at some point. It's
Mhm.
not going to happen. It's in the cards. But imagination. So NASA was approached by the United States government because all of the major powerful people in the country got together, and they said, we are no longer the most powerful country in the world. And that's partly because the infrastructure that made us this powerful is no longer needed to innovate for these third world countries. So we're slipping. And so they got together and they did all this research. And they're like, how are we going to compete in this new world? And they said the only way that's going to happen is if we innovate, and if we innovate continuously. Right. And George Land talks about this in his TED talk. And it's phenomenal research because they created a study to try to figure out how do we identify the people that are going to save this country, that are going to create the type of innovation that's different than the same thinking that created the problem. You see, we've
Mhm.
innovated so much that now we've created a problem,
But there is a
right?
pattern of thinking that you need
There is a
somebody to
pattern of
that.
thinking. So they did a test, and it was so
Mhm.
simple that they decided they would give it to children. because they wanted to know, how do we identify that genius level of imagination
Interesting.
in a person that we could hire to help the country?
Mhm.
So they took a sample of the United States. It was 1,600 kids that represented all the different facets of the United States, right? So it's just a sample. And they tested them. How many do you think identified at 5 years old at that genius level of imagination?
At 5 years old, is that the amount
Yeah,
of
5 years
kids
old is
that
when they got tested. They were all 5-year-olds when they first got tested.
I
How many of
think
them
a lot of,
identified?
like a lot of them.
Yeah. What if
Yeah.
I told you 98%?
Wow. I believe you.
98%, right?
I
You
believe
see,
you
and it's
because
easy for
they're
you and
not
me to
convinced.
believe
Yeah.
because we're
It's because
jumping
they're not
across
convinced.
couches thinking it's
Yeah.
planets. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, who are we kidding? So, talk about this. The test went so well, they decided to do it again when the kids were 10.
Mm.
How many do you think were left?
40%?
30.
Oh wow.
Okay. The same kids 5 years later, just 15 years old. How many do you think we're at?
5%.
12. Okay. Not quite as
Okay.
bad, but you're on the right
I'm more
track.
pessimistic. Okay.
As adult, okay, they finally did it as adults. Now, a lot of teachers were giving this test and they were getting depressed. And at adults, it was 2%.
Okay.
2%. Now,
Makes sense.
yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah,
sadly, it makes sense.
yes, right. Unfortunately, it is. Now, the good news is people like you have figured out a way to stay in that 2%, like me and you, but here's the thing. That's the moral of this research is not um, to depress people. It's to let everybody realize and help them realize from the science of it that we don't learn how to be imaginative. We don't learn creativity and we don't learn innovation. We've unlearned it. But everything we need to do to have massive imagination and massive breakthroughs is already inside of us and can be unlocked. And that is the journey that I think you and I are on, right? Is to help people unlock that.
I love that.
What do you think?
That's so powerful that we unlearn how to be creative and innovative. Like we think about
Yes.
adding to our tool belt as we go through life, we don't realize how much we are just throwing it away and just dormant.
Yes. It's in fact, my whole journey, like the framework I use, the first step is actually getting honest about what we have to first remove. What do we need to remove? The misconceptions, the limiting beliefs, the relationships that are standing in the way. And it could be the job, but a lot of times it's the mindset. What
Yeah.
do I need to
But
shift,
I'll add
adapt,
to that
and
because
move?
that has a lot to do with the work that I do. It's also not only what you take away, but there is one thing, one action you can start doing to help you in a journey. That's what I tell leaders: be curious, approach
Mm,
things with curiosity. Once the judgment comes, just stop talking and ask open ended questions. You're going to learn a lot more about the situation that will help you guide you through the best output, impacting positively the people you're working with.
I love that. So, real quick, somehow your audio got, I mean, your video got delayed. Say hello. I'm gonna cut
Hello.
this. I'm gonna cut this part out. Watch this. I'm gonna do this. Then I'm gonna bring you back. All right, now talk.
All right. Better?
It's all good because I'll be able to match this up in audio. But
Okay.
I love where this is headed. Okay, so let's keep going. So, all right, we covered some of this stuff. So, what I really want, because we're doing actually good on time. Let's see. All right, let's drop back in. Okay, so Andrea, the book you're working on, tell me a little bit more about what the focus is of that. Is it similar to what we've discussed, and when do you think it'll come out?
It's similar. It has a lot to do with also the talk that I am going to give very soon, the
And
speaking
I
gig.
can't wait to see it.
But it starts explaining. You mentioned that at the beginning, like in Marshall's Goldsmith's good words, what got you here won't get you there, right?
That's it.
So,
That's
yeah,
it.
right. So especially, yeah, and it's tailored to technical people that they struggle with management. So
Mm,
the book starts explaining the reason why our brains as technical professionals work the way it does. Like we simply didn't put enough time and effort to to learn the soft skills that are needed for a managerial position, because management is about influence, leadership is about influence. We cannot influence others if we don't know how to communicate, and we didn't spend our years learning about communication and efficient communication. We spent the time learning about the technical skills we needed to
Yes.
succeed in our profession, and we did it. We went from juniors to seniors and premiums, and then all of a sudden we got promoted. And then what? And then, like you described really well, we saw ourselves into a position that we needed a whole new set of skills.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been trained, and we don't like our new job. We used to love the whole coding, decoding, like
Yes.
solutioning,
We're comfortable
being,
there.
yes, we're super comfortable. So it requires a new set. And I have 6 steps that I can help managers to just jumpstart their leadership action and influence,
I love
right?
that.
So they can dig deeper. But if they start acting and behaving with those 6 steps, they will see a big difference that will want to open that portal for them to want to learn more and to be better influencers. So it's empowering the technical professional with the belief, yes, you can be a great manager. That your technical background doesn't define you as a forever nerd that won't be able to relate to people.
A weird nerd, right? Doesn't have to define you as weird. Okay,
Yeah.
so before you go, now you got me thinking, because I'm in a lot of rooms right now talking about artificial intelligence. Okay, and this is a massive disruption. People that think that they won't get replaced are probably wrong. And it's better to assume that you would or could be replaced and start figuring out how to augment so that you're not left behind.
Right.
Okay, are you doing work in that right now, or what are you doing in relation to AI? Anything that's coming up for some of the topics, or people asking you, or businesses? Is what's going on for you as it relates to AI?
I'm a user. I didn't think about that. That's probably something I need to. I actually, nowadays, when I create my designs, and I used to spend so much time, like,
Isn't it incredible how much less brain damage? Oh
it's
Lord,
amazing.
it is
Like,
awesome. I've already outsourced the
I'm
majority of my
terrible.
brain.
I know what I'm good at, but I also know what I'm terrible at. And I'm not like, I don't have the eye for design. I just don't. Not for to furnish my house, not to create presentations. And I mean, I used to be just so dependent on people that would make my speech
Yes,
beautiful, right? And right now with like tools like Canva that has AI,
Canva is out of control.
oh my gosh.
Well,
I was
that's
like,
why they're a $50 billion company. I mean, $13 for that. It's absurd. I mean,
it is.
it is something. Yeah, I mean, I use the heck out of that,
That's
and
magic.
everybody else does. Yeah, you
I
talk
do
about
too.
magic, because I
Yeah,
owned an ad agency, so for a long time I had this whole like team of people that, like, when they weren't working for clients, they were working for my stuff.
I
But it was
know.
like super expensive still and cumbersome. I had all these people on staff and all this, and like the stuff I can do in Canva and some of this out of the box, it's like absurd. I've never been more glad to not own an ad agency anymore.
It's mind blowing. It is. And it saves me so much time. Because right now I can focus on the content and the delivery.
Yeah.
And then the beauty of it is just minor adjustments.
Yes, and the good news is I think experiential things, and services and companies like what we're doing, I don't see that going away. Maybe the books will be written by AIs, but delivering the experience and the connection from a keynote or with a group, we're still a good ways from that emotional side of
Oh
things, and the
yeah.
emotional experience being disrupted. And I think it's important that people augment to the AI, augment for the future, but also really lean in to what makes us unique, because that's what's going to survive this
I
apocalypse.
love it, and I agree. I think you will never substitute the experiences that we had, and that we can make the links and the connections to the points that we make. Right? The
Yes.
computer didn't experience what we did.
No,
That's why people have to relate. They have to communicate. They have to be out there. They have to be living, so they have the experiences, so they don't become computers themselves.
I love it. Well, I feel confident that you're not going to become a computer or be left behind. So that's good. But this, I mean, this has been awesome. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect today. And this has been a great show. If people want to find out more about you, follow you, maybe see when the book comes out, what's a good place to social media?
Well, I'm on
Website?
LinkedIn, Andrea.
LinkedIn. Okay.
Yeah, Andrea Garrafa Gouveia. Um, you can add that to the bio, and then people can find me there until you're done with the course, and I have my websites
Yeah.
because
Yeah. So there'll be a website
I'm
soon and we'll be able to Google you. But for
do that.
now,
Yeah.
LinkedIn. What, you don't do Instagram and all that stuff
I
that
do.
you
I
need to do?
have it's called lead underscore IT underscore FWD. Lead it forward. That's the
Okay.
name of my
Lead
company.
it forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's part of my talk, like the concept of pay it forward. Like as you do something good for somebody,
Absolutely.
you ask people to do good for others. I believe that leadership works in the same way.
Oh yeah.
You lead
That
by your actions, you just multiplying yourself.
what underpins all of this is no matter what we do authentically and what we imagine, it has to include helping other people. And that has to be the ultimate foundation and our purpose. So you got this, girl. So
Frankie,
hey,
this was so good. Like you really have this true calling about yourself because the
oh
way you speak and the way you extract things from us, we just feel like we are sitting down with a friend that is just get us so well and is able just to make us regurgitate everything that we are and what we want to do. So
yeah,
that's
because you sounded great. So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for saying that. I definitely enjoyed it. I can't wait to get this out to the world. And thanks so much for being on the show. And for all the listeners and viewers, we look forward to seeing you next time.